Today is Sunday Funday, and I'm back with more quick and easy Dollar Tree DIYs. I've got a cart full of their pumpkins, and I'm showing you 4 different ways to give them your own little spin, one for every style. I've even got one you can try with your kids, so grab a pumpkin spice latte and settle in, and let's get started. For my first project today, I'm redoing a look that I did last year, even before I started my channel, that I got a lot of great feedback on. I started with one of Dollar Tree's basic styrofoam pumpkins, and you don't even need to paint it unless you have a really see-through fabric. I just cut a small hole in the center of the top where the stem was, and the pumpkins are hollow, so it's really easy to poke scissors through the top. Then I found this navy colored men's golf shirt at the thrift store. It was marked $2.92, but like always, I went on half off day, so I got it for about $1.50. Then I set out cutting strips of fabric that were about 1.5 inches wide. I removed the seams along the sides and then cut the fabric in half and then half again, creating 4 roughly equal pieces of fabric. I tried using my rotary wheel to cut through them all at the same time, but it ended up being way faster to just use my scissors. I've covered these pumpkins with lots of different fabrics before, but I like thinner fabrics like this better than knit because it doesn't unravel, but it also has a little stretch to it, so it's easier to work with than button-down style shirts that don't have any give to them. So I'm just going to wrap the pumpkin with the strips of fabric. I'm using hot glue to attach the fabric at both ends, but by the end the fabric is really snug, so it would hold inside the pumpkin, so you can skip that step if you don't care to have a permanent hold and you might want to change and use the pumpkin for something else down the road. While I'm wrapping, I'll also mention that this video is part of the Sunday Funday challenge hosted by Yanni and Diane from Deco Easy and Trish and Kay from the Crafting Cousins. I'll link both of their channels in the description box below, as well as the playlist for the challenge, so be sure to check their channels out and then hop to the playlist to see what everyone comes up with. It was actually this fall DIY and one other, which I'm duplicating in my next video, that I got a lot of positive feedback about last year and questions on how I made them. So that's when I started to give the idea of starting a channel some thought. I believe I started my channel in October, but as I'm sure you're aware, the DIY YouTube world works a couple months ahead. So by the time I made my first video, it was time for a Christmas piece. Once you've covered the whole pumpkin, you can stop there, but you know me, I like to give it a little extra farmhouse flair, so I used twine to define the different sections. Again, I used glue for a permanent hold, but so long as you didn't cut the entire top off, the twine should stay put if you want to skip the glue. Dollar Tree typically carries 2 different kinds of twine, packs of 3 smaller rolls that are similar to a size of curling ribbon, or this type that is usually found in the hardware section that comes in a roll more like a ball of string. I think I like this type a little bit better because it's more uniform than the other type, but I typically pick up both kinds when I see them in stock. You really can never have too much twine, in my opinion. To finish it off, I just used a twig from our yard. I chose this one because it has a bend to it and it kind of looks like vine-like, so I thought it looked a little more realistic. And here it is on my kitchen counter, displayed with a rustic box that has a blue and white berry wreath in it. I typically display this in my bathroom, and it's a great transitional piece from the end of summer into fall because it's more neutral and not too Halloweenish. For my second piece, I'm going a little more boho, or maybe this would be considered cottage chic. I don't know. Let me know in the comments what style you think this is. It's definitely a little more frou-frou than my typical style, but I have someone in mind to give this to. I started out with a quick coat of paint. I used the plaster color by Waverly, which is an affordable brand at Walmart, and because of the bright orange color that it had, it did take 2 coats to get good coverage. Next, I decided to define some of the lines with some vine I got from At Home last week. There were these huge bunches originally marked $6, but because they're considered spring florals, they were 70% off, so I got them for under $2 each. And these things were about 5 to 6 times the size of Dollar Tree florals, so it's good to shop the sales because you might even find a better bang for your buck at other places. I just glued along the vines so that some of the leaves still stuck out a bit, creating dimension. You may have noticed that I took a little hiatus from my channel in August, and that wasn't really my intent, but because of my mother's death and everything with handling her estate, we weren't really able to do anything as a family early on in the summer, so we ended up stacking everything at the end. And that last month we took a fun resort vacation with some friends, and then we had some quality time with the boys before they went back to school. Family first. And then my video skips ahead a little. For some reason I thought I was filming, but apparently I wasn't. So you just missed the part where I finished the vines and then took a Dollar Tree floral, which the tag said it's freesia, cut the stems apart with wire cutters and literally stuck them through the styrofoam in the top. Win-win because I didn't have to use floral foam. After adding the florals, you see me here adding a few clumps of reindeer moss from Dollar Tree. This added more dimension and I like the softness that it added as well. And here it is on my counter with a couple succulents. I like that it doesn't look super pumpkin-y, if that's even a word. So maybe this is a good DIY for someone that isn't particularly into Halloween but wants to give fall a tiny nod in their decor. Okay, so moving on to my next DIY. This is the one that would be great to involve the kids with. We're going to create a little scarecrow, and I think kids would love putting their own little spin on it. I started by painting the pumpkin with the mineral color by Waverly. This pumpkin was already white because I just batch painted a bunch all at once, but you don't have to have a base coat, so you could just start with the mineral color if you want. I also painted a funnel with the same color, which will eventually be his hat. The funnels at Dollar Tree come in a pack of 3, and this is the smallest size that I'm using here. Next, I roughly drew on a face and then went over my sketch with paint. I used ink by Waverly for the oval eyes and the mouth. I gave him a wavy mouth with a few little crosses to try to look like stitches. Then I used the color Pumpkin by Apple Barrel Paints for the nose. I will say that I wasn't super pleased with the face. I felt like I should have drawn it a little bit bigger, so that is definitely something I would change if given a do-over. Next, it was time for the hat, which ended up being my very favorite part of this project, so I might end up using something similar in another future project, so keep an eye out for that. I started with the funnel and then roughly cut a circle that was large enough to cover it, probably about 10 to 12 inches in diameter. I centered the fabric over the point of the funnel and then used hot glue to fold the fabric around the edges. Next, I traced one of my boys' plates to cut another circle for the brim of the hat. I think the plates are about 8 inches, but this is where you can use whatever fabric or size you like. Once the circle was cut, I folded it in half and cut another circle out of the center, which was about 2 to 3 inches across. The cool thing about burlap, though, is that if you don't cut enough out of the center, since it's woven, you can just remove a few of the strings to loosen it a bit, and boom, it's fixed. Next, I added some hair. Normally I would use raffia for this, but my Dollar Tree didn't have any of that when I was there recently, but good thing they had a couple hula skirts left over from the summer decor. I just cut a few pieces and glued them in every which direction. I didn't want him to have a full head of hair, just a few straggly strands popping out from under the hat. Since the black paint for the eyes was now dry, I took this time to add some whites to the eyes. I just did some upside down crescents at the top and then just a dot for pupils, and I used a silver paint pen from Dollar Tree for this. And then finally a few embellishments for the hat. I just used a few false leaves from some floral stems at Dollar Tree and then a piece of wheat that kind of looks like a little feather in his hat. I actually think that these hats look a little bit like German Oktoberfest hats. I spent some time in Germany in high school as an exchange student and it reminds me of those. But this is where you really can take it and make it your own. I think it would look really cute with a sunflower here. And here he is on my kitchen counter. I just love how he turned out. Isn't he handsome? Definitely think the hat is my favorite part, so stay tuned. I think I'll use something similar in another project this fall. And I think it'd be really fun to make a girl version with some flowers instead of the leaves. For my final pumpkin today, I'm giving it my Faux Stoneware treatment that I've shown a few times before. I'll link another tutorial below if you'd like a more in-depth version, but today I'm just going to run through it quickly. I started with a base coat of the mineral color by Waverly, which is the same color we just used for the Scarecrow project. Next, I grabbed my plaster color by Waverly and my chippiest of chippy brushes. You guys, this thing has little bits of paint stuck to it, and it's definitely seen better days, but it is the perfect brush for this dry brush technique. I dipped the brush ever so slightly into the paint. I actually just used the paint lid, and I dab most of the paint off and then gently brush onto the surface of the pumpkin. Then I follow it with a baby wipe and wipe back and forth in the same direction to blend it. I continue with this method around the whole pumpkin, and then I use the same brush and wipe method to add the elephant color, also by Waverly, sparingly around the container. This third color really adds dimension and makes it look like real stoneware. And the more of the elephant color that you add, it can start to look like concrete, which is a big trend right now. I wanted this to look like an actual vase, so I just cut a hole in the top and then just added some simple greens, and this project was complete. And here it is on my counter. I just love how this turned out. Not bad for $1 plus paint I already had. This is another great transitional piece from summer into fall. Here I'll show you it with some fall ferns as well. I just love how versatile this stoneware look is. So there you have it, 4 $1 pumpkins done 4 different ways. Be sure to let me know in the comments which one you like the best. And if you found me from the Sunday Funday playlist, I'd love for you to stick around and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with my content. I have one more Dollar Tree pumpkin project along with my favorite DIYs for this fall that I saved for the Heidi Som Bowl Challenge this coming Friday. So be sure to stop back and see that. See you next time. Bye.